Your mayor and city council want to spend $200,000 of your tax dollars to help a developer. It's time for some straight talk, McClendon and Chisholm. I'm Bunker Bob, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Yes, and good afternoon and welcome back to the Bunker Bob Show. It is great to have you here. It is another great day and a happy Eve of Christmas Eve to you. Today is obviously part of a spirit of giving, and the mayor and city council obviously have a very good idea of what leftists and liberals like to do. They like to give away money that is not theirs, that they did not earn, that they taxed others for, to help fulfill their vision for the future of our city. And that is the topic of today. That's right. I said and I highlighted that the city council is considering giving $200,000 of your tax dollars to a developer. And that's not hyperbole. That is an actual fact, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And let's just start from the beginning with some empirical evidence. I always like to show you what is empirically true, what I can show you and verify for you, which everything I'm going to do today is going to do that. So let's just, this for instance is the commercial development agreement by and between, that's right, the city of McClendon Chisholm and MSFS Group LLC. Now, this is what they want to do. The city has determined that it is in the best interest of the city to continue to develop the area around Highway 205 and to spur further growth, and that the project plan by the developer will be beneficial to the citizens of the city at large. And in the interest of encouraging further development of this area, the city council is willing to offer a commitment for development of wastewater line infrastructure as an, watch this, incentive equal to the actual cost of the project, not to exceed $250,000, less the developer contribution of $50,000. So that's where we get the $200,000. That's what the city council is trying to do. Now, don't forget, the city council made it very clear that they had to raise your taxes because we needed to be able to provide fire safety. They're growing the fire department. Those who are in the unincorporated area of the fire district will continue to pay nothing, even though more than half of all the calls go outside of the fire district. And by the way, next year, I'm going to be doing a show that is going to show you all of the empirical evidence to prove that more than half of all fire calls are going outside of the city, despite the fact that some on city council, including the fire chief, are trying to portray that there's more calls going inside the city than outside. But we'll look at that in another program. But those who are outside of our city pay nothing for their fire protection. That is the largest part of our budget by a large margin. So when the grant starts fading away, which it's starting to, this is the last year that we get the full supply, the full payment of that grant. When that starts going away, where are they going to come up with the money? Well, they just raised your tax rate 3 cents. Don't believe me? Well, here is proof of that.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the rate of 15 cents. Then those numbers, I don't know what that would be. Increase in the tax rate, and that the ordinance levying this tax rate be approved.
Yeah, 15 cents up from an effective 12 cents, a little bit less than 12 cents was the effective tax rate. And so essentially, the fundamental question you should be asking is, how much revenue did Mayor Pro Tim Bloom's 3 cent tax rate increase from 12 cents to 15 cents effectively provide to the city? Well, let's look at that as well. And we can find that in the approved budget for this fiscal year, our current budget. And it says that this budget will raise more revenue from property taxes than last year's budget by an amount of $65,571, which is an 11.5 31% increase from last year's budget. And so that increase has provided us with $65,000. And the other part of that is that the property tax revenue to be raised from the new property added to the tax roll this year is $48,451. And so the city council wants to basically give to a developer. Now, who is this company that Mayor Pro Tem Jim Bloom and the city council are so eager to give their $200,000 to? Well, that's easily found. According to the Secretary of State website, the MFS Group LLC is the registered agent is Mohammed Polani, who is not just the registered agent, but he is also the president of this organization. And so this is...
My name is Mohammed Polani, and we just purchased a 1.5 acre lot on 205 and 550, and we try to develop there at least 12,500 to 13,500 square foot retail with a one sitting restaurant.
Yep. So that's who he is. And if you want to get a better sense from Secretary of State's office, these are the companies and the people that he is associated with. And so you see the people, you see the different companies that he is connected with. It is a long range of organizations and people. That a connection is made when two people are officers, directors, or otherwise associated with the same company. Muhammad has 13 known connections and has the most companies in common with Farhad Polani. I'm assuming that they're related in some way. The other connections include Shahid Polani, Ismail Makhani, Abdul Qadar, Akbar Amirali, Muhammad Abdul Awal, Ali Akbar Hararo, Manuel Islam, Muhammad Syria, Amin Umir, Abdul Wahab Mandavia, Muhammad Apolano, Muhammad Asif Sanyi. And I know what you're about to ask. And the answer, I'm just going to tell you right from the get-go, the answer is no. None of those people, including Muhammad, grew up in McLendon Chisholm. So I figured you were wondering that. Mr. Polani lives in Plano. These are the companies that Mr. Polani is associated with. Metro Icon Group, Inc., DFW 2005, Reland Group, Ridgeview Group, Neptune Group, Ridgeview Group. That sounds a little bit redundant. One's an LLC and one's incorporated, and they're both active. The 2010 Greenview, United View Group, Wise Inc., Aberdeen Incorporated, Price and Bender Incorporated. So that kind of gives you a feel for what they are associated with and the companies that they're a part of. And so, in case you're wondering where they come from and who they might be. Now, I kind of wanted to focus on the city survey for just a few minutes, very short minutes, because this is important, especially as it relates to bringing in development. Remember, this is the city council and the mayor basically offering $200,000 to a developer to try and develop business. The first question should be asked is, well, what does our community want? What does our community need? And those are two different things. A need is something that you absolutely have to have, and a want is something that's desirable. So, William Pitt, I keep this. This is something that I've had on the dais when I was on city council, and it's from William Pitt, and it reads that necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. So when people talk about the need, what do we need in our community? I'm more literal when it comes to that, and I realize that I'm different from a lot of people that I don't see that we need certain businesses. What is a need and what is a want? I don't believe that our community is in need of anything except the need to have fire protection services. And that's what I've always said. The question of when it comes to fire protection services, where so many people get, where this whole conversation gets derailed is, well, what is the actual need for that? How much fire protection does one need? I'm not going to go back into that debate, but I do want to talk a little bit about what we did find in this first city survey. This was a 2016-17 city survey that I did when I was city councilman. And as we learned from that survey, we learned that the reason that respondents, that the people who participated in the survey, which was quite a few, choose to live in the city of McLennan-Chisholm is for the open spaces, to be part of a smaller, more rural community, and for the low tax rate. That's the reason they came. The reason they didn't come was to be part of a booming, fast-growing community or amenities inside the cities like parks, shopping, and restaurants, which should be a telltale indicator of what's important to citizens, especially as it relates to when the city council, when the mayor and city council want to bring in a developer like this to help grow and expand our city, which is something that I always fought against. One of the reasons that people move into McLennan-Chisholm was because of the amenities outside the city limits, like parks and shopping and restaurants, which is a very important thing. Citizens would like to see commercial development inside the city of McLennan-Chisholm more than they would not. There's some that strongly oppose and some that oppose, but the majority of citizens would like to see some kind of business development in the city of McLennan-Chisholm. So the question is, what kind of business development do the people want, and what's important to the citizens? And so that's where we get this next question that was asked. What kinds of commercial businesses would you like to see inside the city, if any? We have a grocery store, family-owned restaurants, dine-in restaurants. Overwhelmingly were the things that the citizens of McLennan-Chisholm wanted to see inside the city of limits, inside our city. Family-owned restaurants, dine-in restaurants. Now, I want to highlight this one, the grocery store. And what's important about that is that in just this last year, the new Tom Thumb and Heath opened up, and so when we did the second city surveys, a citizen survey, we asked the question specifically as it related to this new Tom Thumb going in. And we asked the question, do you still want to see a grocery store located within our city limits with Tom Thumb coming to Heath? And overwhelmingly, people said no. That the Tom Thumb in Heath, which I just went to this morning, is very close and very convenient for most of us. Not everyone. I'm not saying that everyone agrees with all of this. What I'm saying is that the majority of the people believe that grocery stores are not the most important thing. So it goes back to what is important to citizens. Well, it goes back to these two things: family-owned restaurants, dine-in restaurants. Notice that overwhelmingly, everything else fell woefully short. About half of all of the other interests were other items, other things like fast food chain restaurants or dry cleaning facilities. These were very low on the scale of desirability for citizens that they wanted to see inside our city. Now, you're not going to be able to find this city survey. I'm just going to warn you, you're not going to be able to find it on the city website anymore. Lorna Kippett believes that these city surveys are silly and we don't need them. She's in charge of the website now, and she decided that we didn't need city surveys. Her husband has been outspoken. Mark Kippett has been outspoken in how he thinks that it's a waste of time. And of course, we have the former mayor Mike Donegan, who likes to talk about how we need to have more town hall meetings. Sings how, citizens, most of us, even though we have kids and even though we're every day is packed, we see Mr. Donegan, who is retired, who has nothing else to do but sit around and attend city council meetings and go to meetings like town halls. He seems to believe that everyone wants to go to a town hall meeting and will spend 2 to 3 hours sitting through a meeting where about 10, 15 people may get the opportunity to speak and hear the city council wax prolific with political speak and try to sound like they listen and that they're concerned and that they understand, but ultimately they don't. They don't really give a hoot about what's going on, what the people think. If they did, they would go back to a citizen survey like we did here. Among respondents who answered that they opposed or strongly opposed businesses or commercial development, the following were those that they would like that they said that they would like to see inside the city, and grocery and family-owned restaurants. Well, again, grocery fell off that radar now, but the family-owned restaurants, the dine-in restaurants, look at the family-owned restaurants, how dominant that was. The community, when they talk about they want to see business come into McClendon Chisholm, yes, but we don't want to see these chains. We don't want to see fast food. We want to see mom and pop type stores that the local community can get behind and support, and that's providing something unique that you can't get other places. And so that's an important distinction there. If you also notice that again, going back to the things that got very little support, fast food chain restaurants, and dry cleaning. Now, here's the other thing. What kind of commercial businesses would you not like to see inside the city, if any? And obviously, storage facilities and beer and wine stores were at the top of that list. But you see fast food chain restaurants, dry cleaning restaurants, again, were at the top of the list just like before. At the bottom of the list of the things you don't want to see are those, again, dine-in restaurants, family-owned. The dine-in restaurants, the family-owned restaurants, this is where support is really found inside the city of McClendon Chisholm. And as mayor, these are the things that I focused on, and I thought that was important. That's why I was willing to take a tower company to court. Because they were basically encroaching on our wide open spaces, and they didn't want to go through the process. They just wanted to push their weight around and push their money around. And so we did take them to court. Obviously, that tower company had to pay us a settlement. And while people continue to try to argue that we spent a bunch of money on attorney fees, we actually spent $65,000 litigating that, and we got a $130,000 settlement. So we actually came out ahead. Why? Because we were willing to stand up for what was important to the citizens of McClendon Chisholm. Not so much now, but before we go there, I want to really focus on what are we talking about? Where is this located? And this is the property that we're talking about. You see where it says MFS Group, and MFS Group, just to give you your help with your bearings. There's a 205 heading toward Rockwall. On the other side, obviously, that's where Terrell is headed. And then there's FM 550, and that is, of course, how to get to Heath, and then the other way is going to get you to Royce City. So that gives you helps with your bearings a little bit to kind of understand where we're talking about. And one of the interesting things is we only have really three corners left of this main thoroughfare inside the city of McClendon Chisholm. And so this is seen as very valuable to most of us and to the citizens for sure. I just want to also give you a little bit of a perspective on what is around there, who owns which properties. I know that there's been some questions about, for instance, where are certain things located? Like, for instance, where is Brookshire's grocery store? That's right next to it. Of course, Brookshire's is not going to be building a grocery store there. This is more of an investment property for them. So at some point, they're going to be getting rid of that and selling it to some other seller. Oak National Holdings, that's Altura Homes, even though the person who is head of Altura Homes, that's the father of the owner of Altura Homes, who wants people to believe that he has nothing to do with Altura Homes. So it's another one of those those developer type word plays that they like to use. But Oak National Holdings, that is who basically finances Altura Homes. That's J. Webb Sr. financing J. Webb Jr.'s Altura Home development company. And then Millway Investors, these investors are looking to sell these properties. I don't think, while they have considered looking at some development there, I'm not sure that they will, but ultimately this is, again, probably going to be up for grabs, property that's going to be up for grabs. And then you look at Mariah Bay and the McLennan Chisholm Commercial Holdings. These are the same owners, basically. This is Whittle, the same gentleman who created the harbor, who created the Heath Golf and Yacht Club. This is someone who really has absolutely no regard for the people of McLennan Chisholm. He has no regard for what's important to us as citizens, and so he's kind of become a character that really doesn't really want to help us. If you remember, if you look back at the schematic where the Mariah Bay, the 13.936 acres right behind the Shell station, that is where they wanted to put the Dollar Tree that failed before the Board of Adjustment, thanks to the Board of Adjustment for that, because otherwise we would have seen a Dollar Tree in our community, something that we certainly didn't want to see. So ultimately, the question, so now you know where it is. So really the question is, what is being proposed? So let's take a closer look at that. And this is again, the schematic. Now, I am a visual person, and because I am, the way the schematic and the way, if you were to pull this down off of the city website, which you can do, you just go to the agenda on the city website for the last city council meeting. I forget what it was. It was the only city council meeting in December of 2019. And if you go there, you'll be able to see. And if you pull down the packet, there's a link on there for the packet. You will actually have the ability to see the schematic that I'm about to show you. But when you look at the schematic, it's really when I look at maps, I always think of the northwardly direction, and the way it's set up is a little confusing. So if you look at how that is set up and how that was presented, this is the schematic, and which is why I'm turning it around, spinning it, so that you can kind of keep your bearings. That helped me keep my bearings on this property. And this is what they're proposing. So there are two proposals. There's A1 and B1, and one has a detached section that we'll talk about in a little bit, and this is kind of the rendering that kind of gives you a sense of what it might look like based upon which of those it is. So obviously the question is, what kind of businesses can we expect? And that's best answered by the developer himself.
Could you share with us, sir, some of the other projects that you've...
We just finished one in Balch Spring last month, a couple of months ago, October 2019, and that's 5,000 square foot building. There one Mexican restaurant, hair salon, insurance, and what else? Cell phone repairs or cell phone.
Yeah, so that is kind of what to expect. What he's talking about is the Balch that location. This is what that location looks like. This was the build out when it was completed. It's my understanding that it now has businesses based on what he said. And if you look at it, you can kind of see, based upon the schematics that they presented, the rendering, you can kind of see how similar it looks to what they're proposing here. So that's one of their locations. Another one is Anna, Texas, and here's a little bit more about that.
We built one in 2010, Anna, Texas.
What kind of businesses were in Anna?
Anna, they're convenience stores, fitness club, and nail salon, and donut place.
Okay.
So So this is the what that looks like in Anna, Texas. This is the actual strip center, so that you can see it for yourself. And as you can see, there is the Anna Food Mart, as he was talking about the convenience center. The health club is there as well, and then of course you have a nail salon and a donut shop. That is your location in Anna. And if you know anything about development, and again, I'm not a developer, so I'm not trying to suggest that I know more than others do. What I can say is that I grew up in the city of Houston, Texas, that has no zoning. And I can tell you there's a reason why I don't live in Houston anymore. It is an ugly city. I lived in the Galleria area, one of the nicer areas of Houston. But you go around the Galleria area, drive down Richmond, drive down Westheimer. Just take a drive if you're ever in Houston, Chimney Rock and Richmond, if that gives you a bearing for you. Just drive down Richmond, and you can see for yourself, this is kind of what you get. You get this hodgepodge look. There's no continuity. The signs are all different. It makes the strip center look cheap. Now, just to be clear, the state of Texas has, thanks to Senator Bob Hall, and I'm sorry, but I've been a supporter of Bob Hall. I think he's absolutely wrong in what he did in approving the legislation, just this last legislative session that says that cities cannot regulate the way that businesses look, the outside of them. And so what you want is developers who have a strong commitment to conformity in the way their projects look. And if you see this has none of that. There's no continuity of signage. And so why the question, since you can't regulate it, the question I think that all of us should be asking is, okay, so you can't regulate it from a regulation standpoint, from a governing standpoint. Then why are you offering a $200,000 incentive? That was your choice of words. By the way, the contract that I showed you, that's not a contract that the developer created. That's a contract that the city of McLennan Chisholm created. There's a conversation during the city council meeting where they're asking, are the terms okay with you? Is this going to work for you? You see, the city council wants development. They don't really care what it looks like. But if you care about something, the way something looks like, then you would say, wait a minute, we're not going to give you $200,000. We want to bring in developers who have a track record, who demonstrate by their actions, not their promises and words, not their promises and words. See, because promises and words don't work, as you should know by now, because you elected Mayor Short and Mayor Pro Tem Jim Bloom and Lorna Kippett, William Dahl, Trudy Wosner, and of course the illegitimately appointed Nathan Hodges is now taken over for Herman Larkin. So, look, words are one thing. If you're going to invest in anyone, you should invest in a reputable developer. But that's not what this city council wants to do. Here's the Grand Prairie, where they talk about Grand Prairie.
2019, we finished in March in Grand Prairie, Texas.
And how? What do you have in the Grand Prairie buildings?
Okay, we do have a cell phone, insurance office, hair salon, and packaging shipping company.
Yeah, so they've got all of this hodgepodge, but remember how in the citizen survey, how low dry cleaners ranked in the citizen survey? Here's a copy of how low commercial businesses, when citizens were asked, what kind of commercial businesses would you like to see inside the city, if any? This is what you see. There's a greater interest in having a liquor store than a dry cleaners. But here's what, and this is, don't want to miss this. Here's what Mayor Short had to say about that.
Now, let me ask you a question. And I'm just going to ask this because of my, what I see from me as a citizen needs. With some of your other projects and all that, have you ever put a dry cleaners in any of your buildings?
We are in dry cleaning business.
Okay.
So I sent you the list today in email.
Right.
We are in dry cleaning business. We do insurance businesses, and we are in convenience store business. So this particular space, we can do our insurance office and dry cleaning. Yes.
That and it's just me personally, but I like to wear starched jeans and a nice pressed shirt, and with the amount of people we have that live in this city, that go into Rockwall, Dallas, and some of the other big cities for work, I see that as a business in our city that could probably do well.
Yeah.
Because it's close to the house.
Yeah. So what's most important to Mayor Short is what is personally important to him, not what is important to the citizens of McLennan Chisholm. Hey, maybe the attitudes of citizens have changed since then. How about doing a citizen survey? Oh, that's right. Those are silly. Listening to the citizens of McLennan Chisholm, that's a silly notion. But let's have a dry cleaning. Oh, and by the way, the developer, they're in the dry cleaning business. They're also in the insurance business and the cell phone business. Are you starting to pick up on a few things? Do you remember the Anna location? It had a convenience store. They're in the this developer happens to be in the convenience store business. That convenience store was theirs. And you ought to take a trip. Just take a trip to Anna. Next time you're in Anna, if you're not in Anna, go take a trip. Go take a trip and visit that convenience store. And you tell me what you think. Is that what you want in your city? On one of the three leftover corners of our city, of that major thoroughfare there that the Mayor Bloom and Lorna Kippett and Mayor Short are saying that this is the most valuable piece of property. Well, take a look. But here's a look. I want you to also look at this. Here's a look at the Strip Center complex where the MFS Group LLC, corporate headquarters, is also located. Now take a look at this for yourself. What do you see? Here, you see an insurance business. There's a Mexican restaurant, dry cleaners. Hey, he talked about a shipping company. Isn't it interesting? You can ship money for less. There's a Metro PCS cell phone company, a computer repair business there. There's a nail salon. Here's a Mexican restaurant. There's of course, the donut shop. I don't know about you, but won't we be the envy of Heath and Rockwall with complexes like this? Since they do own these things, isn't it reasonable to assume that that's what we're going to see? We talked about restaurants, so let's talk about restaurants and what their plans for a restaurant might be. And if we go back to the schematic of what that looks like, here it is. This is again rendering A, and there's rendering B, and you see how these are actually designated places for a restaurant to go in. One is a detached restaurant, one is attached. And here's some of the questions and comments and responses from the developer as it relates to that.
So how do you go about soliciting for the type of restaurant that you want? How does that go about?
Well, we hire brokerage firm to lease out the space, and of course they market different types of businesses, and based on what the town needs, they go out and market those businesses. And given the traffic on 205 and surrounding towns are growing, I think there's a very good possibility as the building is getting erected and we have the brokers sign out there to lease out the space. We're confident that we will get some calls for restaurants and dine-in or drive-through restaurants.
Yeah, so drive-through restaurants, and so what they say? What kind of restaurant? That's a very important question. What kind of restaurant? Can we make suggestions? What could we expect possibly?
Do you take suggestions on what restaurant we kind of have an idea of like something that we would like to go in there? Can we throw that at you? Or?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. Sure. I do. I also do a lot of Burger Kings and Wendy's and a lot of QSR restaurants, and really they would want more land area versus what we've got here. So that's kind of targeting, like you said, maybe some local restaurateur, some local flair. But you never know. Wendy's might come in and say, that's enough space for me.
Yeah, so you might just get a Wendy's after all. What I found interesting about Councilmember Wosner's question was that she didn't actually make any recommendations. So what is she thinking? Other than, hey, we're going to give this guy $200,000. This sounds like a great deal for us. Hey, let's get some business in. Let's bring some tax dollars in so that we can keep our tax rate for citizens low. Of course, that show me a city where you have more businesses and more stuff, and you lower your tax rate. That's a misnomer. There is no such thing. You're not going to lower the tax rate in McLennan Chisholm by bringing in more business, because you're going to have more problems. You're going to have more needs, and government will continue to grow. But here, you remember, I talked to you and highlighted in the citizen survey, what kind of restaurants do citizens want? Do they want the fast food chain restaurants? Absolutely not. What about dine-in? That should be the key and the top of everyone's list.
What we want to do is limit the dine-in restaurants, okay? Because then my parking count starts shooting up, okay? Needless to say, in the 11,000 square foot, we could probably have a Subway or a Dominos delivery carry-out unit. A concept that doesn't require dine-in, so and it doesn't increase the parking counts. So this whole plan is based on square footage versus parking counts.
Yep, you heard it. This is not about dine-in. It's about limiting the parking. He doesn't want to have to pay. He doesn't have to put in more parking because that's concrete. That's cost. It's much easier to bring in a Domino's or a Subway, where you don't have to worry about all of that. So when you look at the schematic on what's there, are they going to have drive-ins?
You don't determine ahead of time if you need a drive-through or not until you have solicited or received the...
No, we will go ahead and add the drive-through right now while we are doing it. So if the restaurants come, and most 90% of restaurants need drive-through, and they do have a drive-through right there when they come. It'll be a lot easier while we're building a building. A drive-through will be easier to be built.
Yeah, it's much easier to go ahead and build that while you're put that drive-through in. That is their vision. Look, this is not a question of whether or not there might be a dine-in. This is not going to be a dine-in restaurant. I didn't know, by the way, that 90% of all restaurants have a drive-through. I guess I don't shop in the same or eat at the same places that they do. I don't think that's true. And when people bring out these statistics, maybe he's talking about 90% of fast food restaurants need a drive-through. Now, I can agree with that, but 90% of restaurants need a drive-through? No. So this is going to be a fast food restaurant for sure. Well, will both renditions have a drive-through?
So looking at these two plans, you have A1 and B1. B1 has the detached restaurant facility. You could be doing a drive-through with both of them?
Both of them, yes.
Okay.
Yep, both of them will have a drive-through. So regardless of which rendition or rendering they go with, they are going to be putting in a drive-through, and you're going to see for yourself. You might get a Burger King, you might get a Domino's pizza. Ultimately, what's most important is that the things that are most important to the citizens of McLennan Chisholm are the things that are least important to the city council. And so this is the fundamental problem that I have when I hear that a city council, that the mayor and city council want to give these developers a $200,000 gift that is more than double what our tax rate increase amounts to for the city, so that they can bring in fast food restaurants like Domino's, like Subway, like Burger King or Wendy's. This is something that I think those who are outside of our city limits, those who live in High Point Ranch, High Point Lake Estates, the people who contribute nothing to their fire safety, these people would love to see something like that, because it's easier for them than having to go into Terrell or into Rockwall. It's closer, and they don't have to worry about any crime. They don't have to worry about excess traffic. They don't have to worry about the cost. They don't have to worry about more the city spending their tax-paying dollars, because they don't pay taxes here. Of course, those who were in the unincorporated area, these are the people who funded the campaigns for your current mayor and every member of city council. These are the people who helped lie to get them elected. Well, they're going to keep them there, and this is the result. As I continue to say, we deserve the kind of government that we elect. So, who is this company? You know, we've talked about who this company is.
So the ones that you built in the past, do you still own those, or have you sold those?
No, we have not sold none of them.
We still own all those three properties.
I mean, to me, that's important, because if we're going to enter into if this city is going to enter into a partnership, I want to make, from my perspective, we really want to be able to work with you guys
And not
5
just-
years down the road.
not just something
Definitely.
that's
Definitely.
Yeah, we don't want fly-by-night people coming in and out. How old is MFS Group? It was established in 2017. They still own, they said, the 3 strip centers that they had talked about, that they had highlighted, and Balch Springs, Grand Prairie, and Anna. These are all new strip centers. They still own them. But what about all the other projects that they've worked on? What about all the other things that they have created? Do they not still own those strip centers? So where is MFS Group's corporate headquarters? I think that's a pretty good question to ask. And both the Secretary of State's document, and this is the developer agreement with the city, both the Secretary of State and this developer agreement show that 2357 Jupiter Road in Plano, Texas, is where their corporate headquarters is located. And this is that facility. Specifically, it happens to be in this Payless Auto Insurance Company. That is actually 2357 Jupiter Road, Plano, Texas 75074. That is where it is located. And what's most important to understand about that is it is owned not by MFS, this strip center. It's owned by Fat Chance Realty, that has that there is no connection to Mr. Polani or MFS Group at all. The question that I have is, if you're such a great developer, why are you not officing out of your own strip center? And or could it be that the Polanis had created this strip center and sold it to Fat Chance Realty, and because this is, according to the CAD, County Appraisal District, this is who it owns. It's Fat Chance Realty. Sounds like, oh well, maybe they're a broker for this group. No, they are actually listed as the owner of this property. So is it possible that Polanyi built this and then sold it? I don't know. I can't tell you the answer to that. What I can say is, why aren't they officing out of facilities that they built themselves? But more importantly is, this is supposed to be their corporate headquarters. That's the corporate headquarters for an organization, for a company that the city of McLennan-Chisholm wants to do business with. Are you starting to see why giving $200,000 of taxpayer dollars may not be the best idea? Now, it's not just the fact that this group, these people are, in my opinion, disreputable. That's an opinion, and I have a right to my opinion. They don't seem to be an organization that really does great work and really focuses on the community, on what's best for the community. They seem to be a group of people who focus on what's best for them and how to make the most money. I mean, it's capitalism at its best. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with capitalism. The question is, the city of McLennan-Chisholm wants to give your tax dollars, $200,000 of it, more than that, which is more than double what your tax rate increase amounts to for the city. They want to give that money. So we're not just money that the tax increase, but additional funds to help this developer. I say no. I don't think that's okay. In fact, I have a real problem with that altogether. This is, I think, the bigger question for me is, in January of this year, the city council, under Jim Bloom's direction and guidance, put together an economic development committee. Now, understand, it is very common for cities to help give tax benefits and tax breaks to businesses that they want to bring in. Two examples of that are going to be Terrell and Royce City with the Buc-ee's. Both Terrell and Royce City get nothing from Buc-ee's, and no tax benefit. They basically said you can work here tax free. You don't have to charge anything from the city. You will not pay the city any taxes for the goods and services that you provide. And for Royce City had a plan. Excuse me, not Royce City. That was a Freudian slip. Terrell had a plan, because where they put the Buc-ee's, if you're familiar where 80 is and 550, if you're familiar with where the Buc-ee's is located, you'll see that they basically created a planned development to develop a commercial area for restaurants and a shopping mall, movie theater, all this stuff. They created this space, and they put Buc-ee's in the middle to attract others, because they knew, because of where it's located on a freeway, it's at a crossroads of a freeway, they could bring in a lot of people. And boy, have they succeeded in that vision, because they did have a plan. The city of Royce City, one of the most mismanaged cities, in my opinion, ever. The mayor of Royce City has absolutely no idea what she's doing. And they have basically made the same deal. Go look at where Buc-ee's is located, and go look at all of the development that is going on around that Buc-ee's. And you will see for yourself why the city of Royce City has the highest tax rate by a large margin of any city in the city in Rockwall County. That's the difference between cities that plan, that understand what they want to do and why they want to do it, and cities that don't. So, city of McLennan-Chisholm, Jim Bloom and his committee, they wanted to put together an economic development committee, and they put on this committee a gentleman named Mike Donegan. If you're not familiar with Mike Donegan, the former mayor of McLennan-Chisholm, Mr. Donegan has been banging the drum. He's been going to city council meetings saying, "I want to be on this committee. I'm qualified." He's the former mayor of McLennan-Chisholm, folks. That basically fast-tracked two major developments, Sonoma Verde and Triple Creek. These two developments basically obliterate our city's 1.5 acre minimum per home site standard, an ordinance that is still in effect. The Sonoma Verde putting 1,100 homes on 509 acres. Triple Creek putting 1,876 homes on 1,600 acres. And buildable. And actually, you're only talking about 400 buildable acres for the Triple Creek development because everything is in a floodplain. So you're talking about this very small footprint. You can thank Mayor Donegan for fast tracking that. Citizens had no idea. They woke up one day and someone started talking about these two developments, and people were like, "What? What are you talking about? We have a 1.5 acre minimum per home site standard. They can't do that." Oh yeah, they can. They did. Mayor Donegan helped his friend who owns the Triple Creek Ranch a bunch, and they're working hard to try to find another developer because the other one died. Trying to find another developer who will actually pick that development agreement up. I've talked about that in a couple of other videos. So if you're interested in the Triple Creek development, you ought to learn a little bit about it. You ought to learn why Mike Donegan, a man whose actions have demonstrated how bankrupt of integrity he is. This is a man who has come before our city council quoting the King James Version of the Bible, the definition of a lie, only to learn later that he was actually quoting from the Webster's version of the dictionary. This is the kind of, not just a liar, but also the kind of heretic Mr. Donegan is. This is someone that is on our Economic Development Committee. Also, Mark Kippett, an East Coast liberal who has ingratiated himself with the Republican Party because, by the way, 93% of McLennan Chisholm voted for Donald Trump. If you want to do anything in McLennan Chisholm, you darn well better be a Republican, even if you're not. That's why to call yourself a Republican is meaningless. A Republican doesn't a conservative make. Mark Kippett proves that. In fact, Mark Kippett actually stood before city council. Golly, I should have got that soundbite for today's show. I wish I would have thought about it, but I'll bring it up on another show, or I'll put it on the extras. But you'll hear Mark Kippett talk about how we need to raise the tax rate, not 15 cents as the council did, but 16.5 cents. We need a 16.5 cent tax rate. He wanted to raise it. When we had the tax rollback, when I led the tax rollback to lower our tax rate, because the city council wanted to raise it to 34 cents. It was 9 cents at the time. Mark Kippett opposed it. He said it was wrong, that we wouldn't be able to provide for our fire department. And what happened? We won the tax rollback. Okay, the tax rollback went through. I got elected by a landslide and the largest voter turnout in the history of our city. And what did we do? We increased the funding to the fire department by 47% that year. When you hear Mark Kippett talk, you understand. You've got to you just understand, watch your leg, because he's pulling it. So with all that said, Mark Kippett, Mike Donegan, these are the people who are leading the Economic Development Committee. You have another woman named Melody Osorio, who genuinely brings to the table some ideas, some plans. She sent me some of these ideas. They're not all good, but they are leagues ahead of what Mr. Donegan, Mr. Kippett, Mr. Bloom have presented, have proposed. And do you know what they do with what Mrs. Osorio does? They do nothing with it. They ignore her. Why? Because she is a little woman. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So this is the reality that we live in. So we have an Economic Development Commission. Here is, I think, one of the most telling things that you're going to hear.
Jim, could I ask you a question? How does this fit into the economic development plan?
That's still not defined. I mean, obviously bringing in economic development is very appealing. The service businesses, I don't know the kind of revenue those generate, but it's I wouldn't say there is a plan out there now, but bringing in as many high revenue sources as possible. We appreciate your interest. That's exciting and a good, great first step. But
it's just one of our few corners.
It's probably our most valuable future. One out of four, right? Out of three now. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. He has no plan. He's the one who, when I was mayor, argued, we need a plan. We need a plan. We need a plan. And my plan was simple. we will go and we will support and we will protect our city's 1.5 acre minimum per home site standard. We will put together an economic development plan that the citizens actually get to participate in. Now, I was pushed out of office before any of that could happen. I was on city council for a year before Nathan Hodges decided, well, he doesn't have time to be mayor, so he resigned. The council appointed me to fulfill his remaining term of office, and that's when so many people tried to push me out of office. They did through lies, misinformation, and half-truths. And that's the problem. That's why I said it once, I'll say it again. It's why conservatives, you don't get conservatives. You won't get a conservative like me in city council again. I've talked to so many people trying to recruit them to run for city council, and they all say the same thing. This is not a city where conservatives are welcome, where conservative opinion, where conservative minds will be embraced. This is a city where leftism, where lies are perpetuated, and they all do it while they're smiling. They try to make you feel good with what they're saying. Folks, this is a real issue, and goodness knows, I know that it's the holidays, and this is going to be my last show before the new year. On the 27th, I'll be having foot surgery, and my doctor says I've got to be in bed for a week, so it will probably be after the new year before I can get another show in the can, as they say. And until then, I hope that you will take some time to pass this video along to your friends, your neighbors, and please do show up at the next city council meeting in January of 2020 and let your elected officials know that what they're doing is not okay. That giving away $200,000 of tax dollars is a foolish thing to do. If they want to, before you do any of that, show us what your economic development plan is. Oh, and by the way, why don't you get the feedback from citizens through, I don't know, a survey? So that we can answer anonymously, we can answer honestly, so that we don't fear being retribution from politically inclined individuals who happen to be on the city council. And so that you can't hide behind some fluffy words. You have to actually face the empirical evidence that's before you. And so I'm going to ask all of you, if you're watching, to please show up at the city council meeting. Email them. Email your city council members. Say, don't do this. This is stupid. This is how we protect our city. And you're the only way we can do that. So I do hope that if you haven't subscribed, that you will subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so that you're notified whenever I have a show coming up, so that you can watch it live if you like doing that, or you can just watch it later after it's been recorded. So I do look forward to being with you next year, new decade 2020, and I do hope that you and your family have a really Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So until then, I'm Bunker Bob. We'll see you then.